In the heart of rural Pennsylvania stands the ruins of Black Hollow Asylum, a place shrouded in silence, shadows, and secrets. For decades, it housed not only the mentally ill, but the discarded, the unwanted, those deemed too broken for society. The building has been closed since 1987. Official reports cite a fire, but the fire was just the final chapter. Behind those walls were whispers of abuse, of isolation chambers, of patients who simply disappeared. Locals avoid the grounds. Birds won't nest near it, and every year, thrill seekers try to spend a night inside. Few last until dawn, and those who do are never quite the same. Tonight, we dive into one of those stories, true, documented, and deeply disturbing. In October 2016, Mike and Jason, amateur urban explorers and college friends, set out to film a documentary about America's most haunted places. Black Hollow Asylum had long been off limits, abandoned after a mysterious fire in the West Wing and a quiet investigation into inhumane treatments. Armed with cameras, flashlights, and a map they found online, they entered just as the sun dipped behind the trees. Jason joked nervously about getting possessed for likes, while Mike stayed quiet, focused. The air inside felt immediately heavier, like the building was holding its breath. The entrance hall was filled with debris, discarded patient files, overturned wheelchairs, mold-stained walls. Graffiti covered every surface, but one message stood out: don't listen. The moment they passed the threshold, their equipment began acting up, static on the mic, flickers on the camera feed. Mike felt a sudden drop in temperature and his breath fogged in the air. Jason stopped laughing. Then they both heard it, a whisper, faint, cold, and close, unintelligible, but unmistakably human. As they explored the East Wing, silence gave way to strange background noises, shuffling footsteps that didn't belong to them, the faint creak of doors behind them that hadn't been opened. Then, on their infrared camera, something appeared, a tall, dark figure standing motionless at the end of the corridor. No heat signature, no movement, it just stood there. They rushed forward, but the hallway was empty. Jason began to change. He stood still longer, his eyes darted toward shadows, and he flinched at sounds only he seemed to hear. "Do you hear it?" he whispered. Mike asked what he meant. Jason shook his head like he was shaking off a bad dream, then said, "It knows we're here." Suddenly, he turned and walked toward the north stairwell, saying they had to follow the sound. Mike hesitated, but something in Jason's voice had changed. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a command. They descended into the cold belly of the asylum. The staircase creaked under their feet, each step sounding like a groan. As they reached the basement, the walls changed from tiled to rough stone, damp with condensation. The air felt metallic, like blood and rust. Old gurneys lined the walls, rusted restraints hung loose like vines, and glass jars filled with unidentifiable specimens lay shattered on the ground. The whispering grew louder, becoming layered, rhythmic, almost ritualistic. It echoed from every direction. Jason stopped in his tracks, staring at a shadow on the far wall. He began to whisper something back, mimicking the chant. Mike tried to pull him away, but Jason dropped to his knees, let out a piercing scream, and collapsed. His eyes rolled back. His voice changed, deep, guttural, inhuman. The camera flickered, the lights pulsed. Then, behind Jason, a figure rose, black as shadow, tall as the ceiling, and the screen went dark. But that wasn't the end. Mike reached for Jason again. His body was ice cold. Jason's lips twitched like he was still whispering, even unconscious. Suddenly, one of the basement lights exploded overhead. The door at the top of the stairs slammed shut by itself. A chilling growl echoed from deep within the hallway. Mike looked toward the darkened corridor, and for the first time, he felt it. They weren't alone. Something ancient was watching. Mike grabbed Jason by the collar and dragged him toward the stairs. Jason's body was limp, but his eyes were wide open, staring into nothing. Mike's flashlight shook in his hand, barely cutting through the dark. The whispering was everywhere now, faster, angrier. They reached the second floor when Jason suddenly whispered, "It's coming," and the light went out. Mike ran blindly through the crumbling hallway. Jason slumped against his side. Doors slammed. Something moved in the shadows, without sound, without shape. As he passed the old patient intake room, the temperature dropped suddenly. Frost crawled along the windows from the inside. A siren long broke and began to whine in the distance on its own. Mike turned a corner and nearly tripped over a pile of broken furniture. He looked back. A tall figure was now standing at the end of the hallway, not moving, not chasing, just watching. They burst through the front entrance and into the night, collapsing onto the grass outside. For a moment, everything was silent, until Jason whispered one final time, "We weren't supposed to leave." Later, reviewing the footage, Mike found a single clear frame. Behind them, just inches away, the figure stood. No blur, no distortion, just eyes, black, endless eyes watching, and a mouth that didn't move, but whispered anyway. Jason never returned to school. He was admitted to a psychiatric ward days later, diagnosed with acute dissociative amnesia. He claimed to remember nothing of that night, but sometimes, in the middle of the night, he wakes up screaming, muttering words in an unknown language, clawing at the walls. His doctors say it's trauma. Mike believes otherwise, because weeks after the incident, he received an anonymous package. Inside, a memory card. It contained just one file, no video, just audio. The whispering, but now it was saying his name. Black Hollow remained sealed, but locals say on quiet nights, whispers float from its broken windows. Some believe the asylum holds more than memories. Some say it never let its patients leave. And if you listen closely, you'll hear it too. If you're still watching, the asylum remembers you. Subscribe for more stories that never stay silent.